unapologetic liberal talk. It's Tarabuster with Tara Devlin.
All right. And Bob Cesca. Nice to see you, Bob. What a surprise to have you right on the show, right in the beginning of the show. And I'm a big fan. And people are in the chat, and they're very excited to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you've been a hero of mine. I've been a fan for a long time, listening to all your shows. I mean, you're someone. Thank you for joining the show. Today we're joined
Thank
by
you. Yes.
someone that people have heard of and seen and followed for years. Bob Cesca is the host of Bob Cesca Show, one of the longest running progressive politics podcasts, mainstay. Yeah.
When you put it that way, you'd think I'd be more successful at it, but okay.
That's how I feel too. Not about you, about myself.
Right.
I thought you'd be
thank
more
you, Tara.
successful too, but no,
Yeah,
about myself.
Well, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so happy to be invited, and it's about time we met. I've watched your presence on social media and your podcast. And
thank you.
It's great to finally connect.
Wow. Yeah, because you do so many things, and you do a Star Trek show too, right? With Mary Trump. Am I wrong about that? Or, oh no. Okay.
Yes. Trek politics. In fact,
it's called what?
Yeah, it's called Trek Politics.
Okay.
And Mary Trump and I examine episodes of Star Trek, of course, from a sort of a political allegory point of view.
That's amazing.
And so we have some fun with it. It's anywhere between a half an hour and an hour long. And, depending on the episode, depending on how much we have to say about that episode. Right now we're camped out on the original series from back in the 60s. And then once we've bled that to death, we're going to move on to the next generation and forward from there. But yeah, that's one of the things we do. And it's a shame because we're not actually doing an episode this weekend. I'm here talking about it, but there's not a new episode coming up on. Normally, it gets posted on YouTube at around 6 p.m. on Sundays. But we're taking a week off, and so we'll resume next Sunday at 6 p.m.
Right. I was a big Next Generation fan. I watched every single episode of that. I mean, I was alive when Star Trek was on. I wasn't really. I was little. I mean, I'm 58, but I don't, So when was Star Trek on? I don't really remember watching it as a kid. So. Yeah,
66, 67, 68.
Oh yeah, it was just
and then it wrapped up in 69. Yeah. Okay. So and I'm around the same age as you. I'm 54, so I didn't see it when it was originally on, but I caught it in the reruns in the 70s and fell in love with it, especially after Star Wars came out. And so I was drawn into the whole sci-fi world. Yeah, for sure.
I was in the Star Wars fan club myself, and but I loved Next Generation. Not that this is a podcast about Next Generation, this one,
right?
But I'm just thinking about it because of because it's all tied in, really, and it's kind of heartbreaking though when we look back on Star Trek and the hope that was embedded in there and the world because TV media reflects life, and as we know, so it's all a constructed reality and reflects what's going on. And because you wrote a book too called One Nation Under Fear in the Bush years, right? And
yes, my ill-fated 2008 book, that ended up coming out after the election, which wasn't planned, but what are you going to do? Yeah. So I've been covering the use of fear as a political weapon for some time now, and not in a good way. In an adverse way. Certainly at that time, it was all about the Bush administration using fear to intimidate people, certainly using 9/11 as a cudgel to pass things like the Patriot Act, to invade Iraq, to authorize the AUMF legislation to give presidents unlimited power that still is in use now. I mean, those things are still, enacted. And so that was the book. And I wish it, as I said, I wish it had come out prior to the election, because there was a whole lot of stuff about the election itself that I was covering in it. Barack Obama and the primary campaign against Hillary Clinton and all that stuff. And, but it was a great experience writing it.
Yeah, but I'm sure studying it and thinking back on the book, it's, now we look back fondly on the Bush years. And I remember at the time, right, we look back and say, well, there was some normalcy there, because this is so off the rails here. And I remember at the time, because I was, how I got into doing this podcasting and all was through Mike Malloy, and I used to do field producing.
Oh, yeah.
He's still doing a show and everything. And
he's great.
Yeah, and I would do field producing for his show, and we got to be friends and all. And I remember us sitting around talking about, the fascism, and we would say, and every Republican chest beats the heart of fascism. I talk about that all the time, and but now it's so obvious, right? And at the time when we would say things like that, people would guffaw. Oh, you're just being hyperbolic, and don't call them fascists, don't call them Nazis or whatever. But they are, but it was like a little seed of fascism, and now it's really taken root. And I just wonder what you think about this, the perspective, the time, and then and now, and
Well, we started to see hints of it, certainly at that period of time. I mean, we started to see hints of it going all the way back to Richard Nixon, and certainly bleeding into the Reagan administration, which was just writ large as far as just that slow boil. You could start to see the heat being turned up. You could start to see moves toward this alliance between the Republican Party and Christian fundamentalism.
Yes.
That was certainly one of the steps toward the fascism that we see now, because at that time in the early 1980s, it was all about using Christianity as a way to control people. And then that of course reached so many of these areas of, kind of the Midwest and some of these red states, where now, you fast forward 40, 50 years and you see these mega churches, which are now indoctrinating their congregations into buying into all this stuff, and turning the Democrats into literally the devil. And basically making these congregations into militant armies for republicanism.
Wow.
And now for Trumpism. And so that's kind of the basis of everything. And then you get to Donald Trump, who just has no sense of what democracy actually means, has no sense of decency or decorum, and has just rejected the unwritten rules of the presidency, the traditions of what the executive branch is supposed to be, these things that probably at some point should have been codified into law or constitutional amendments, even better, but which are just, with the hopes of, well, we're going to elect decent people. The American people, they're going to choose reasonable human beings to occupy that office. And so therefore we can have these unwritten rules. But then Donald Trump is riding this wave of not just internet clout, but also reality television, to the point where he constructed this form around himself that made him seem like a competent businessman when he's absolutely not a competent businessman. In fact, we all talk about the fact that when he had his bankruptcies, there was a bankruptcy judge, who put him on an allowance. But of course, Mark Burnett comes along with The Apprentice and creates this myth around Donald Trump. So he's riding this wave, not necessarily created by himself, but certainly people around him, foisted ahead by people like Steve Bannon and others. And then here we are dealing with this monster who it's got to be a crazy thing for anyone. And I wonder if he knows this, that there are literally millions and millions of people in the world who are waiting for him to die.
Yes.
And
hello.
Yeah.
I was just
I'm not saying that in a violent sense.
Right.
I'm just saying
Legally
that we're
and
all
peacefully.
like, okay, is today the
Yeah.
day? Is today going to be the day?
The great
Because we
getting up
can't
morning. That's what I call it. The great getting up morning, you know? Like,
exactly. Because we can't continue on like this. We
No.
can't continue on where every election is a referendum on democracy itself.
Right.
Where democracy is being exploited to end democracy
amazing. Yeah.
by one of the two parties.
You're right.
So here we are.
Yeah, right. I haven't heard it put like that. It's that dire, because for years we've heard this is the most important election of your lifetime, but it really does keep getting worse. You know, it is the most important election of our lifetime. Now it is. This coming midterm, the midterms are the most important elections of our lifetime. If we don't get the midterms, we're done. This country's done. I mean, they're not even pretending anymore. And what you were saying is 100% correct. He has a fundamental misunderstanding, to put it mildly, of what democracy is. That's why they think it's weak. They think it's weak and woke. And that they're rolling back the American Revolution. They're not rolling back the Progressive Era or the New Deal or the Great Society. They're rolling back the American Revolution, and they want to put. Yeah, I mean, that's it. They want the rich to run and rule, and everyone else will await their rewards in heaven and will toil in the fields. That's why, and don't pester your betters for a decent middle class life. That's not what they're there for. I mean, the whole authoritarian project is right out in the open now, and it's so disgusting. Yeah. And I often wonder too, how will the American people ever atone for this if we get it back? Now, all right, let's. These are two different questions, I guess. Like, what do you think our chances are for the midterms? I mean, look at all the Voting Rights Act that they just dismantled, and they're already going after redistricting and redoing elections now and stopping elections until they can rig it, right? They're not even trying to seem like they're not doing it anymore. And the Supreme Court, they're not even trying to appear impartial anymore. It's insane.
Yeah. The problem is that this is, generally speaking, a political minority party.
Right.
The Republican Party is, or it ought to be, a permanent opposition party. It should not be a ruling party. You're and right. I'm actually quoting, I believe it's Bill Kristol, who said that the Republican Party needs to be not a ruling party, but a permanent opposition party.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the reasons for that right now. And so consequently, what they have to do is they have to shave the corners off of democracy, the democratic process. They have to screw around with elections. And this is what we see Donald Trump doing with his propaganda and his lawsuits and continuing to boil that frog by turning up the heat.
Yeah.
So, most of the American people, as long as the Wi-Fi is still working, they're just going to go along their merry way and not worry about how elections turn out. But that being said, I will say also that, with my caveat being don't get happy. The people who follow my podcast know that one of my things is don't get happy, don't get complacent. Yeah. However, I'm rather bullish on this midterm.
Okay.
I think that we could be looking at a 2006 style midterm. If you remember that one, that was an enormous watershed year where the Democrats took over in a big way.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was as big as 2008, but it was pretty big as far as midterms go. I mean, 2008 wasn't a midterm, it was a general election. But with the midterm in 2006, we gained huge majorities in both the House and the Senate. I think it was something like 45 seats in the House. On the Senate side, people like John Tester were elected. It was this massive blue wave that occurred in 2006. And I think we're looking at the exact same thing. And it's for a number of reasons. I think primary among them is the map is favorable to Democrats. Just as a structural thing, the Republicans have to defend more seats. And so maybe that's not the secret sauce that it used to be.
Yeah.
But at this point, they've got to spend more money. So that puts them at a disadvantage, defending all of those additional Senate seats.
Right.
So, So that as the basis, and then you build from there. Donald Trump is becoming increasingly unpopular. His approval numbers on inflation are lower at this point than Jimmy Carter's, lower definitely than Joe Biden's approval numbers were on inflation in 2021 and 2022, when inflation was very, very high. And Donald Trump isn't quite there yet, but he's on his way toward that level of inflation. And the difference, though, between Joe Biden in 2022 and Donald Trump in 2026 is that Donald Trump created this climate that has generated inflation. Everyone knew it going into the 2024 election, that his tariff regime was going to trigger inflation. If he decided to go to war, go back on his promise to end endless wars and invade a country like he's doing right now, there's this double whammy between the tariffs and the Strait of Hormuz being closed because of Donald Trump's adventurism in the Middle East. So here we are. And by the time I think we get to November, certainly when there's early voting going on, because that'll still be intact, Donald's going to be so unpopular. And I think that's going to bleed out into the broader Republican. So sick and tired of this party. And I mean, even the people, just, I want to throw this in here, that what poll is it? I want to say it was Reuters Ipsos, where Donald's approval among people who voted for him is now 18 points lower than it was in January of last year, at the beginning of his second term. So Donald is hemorrhaging support from the people who support 2024. It's astonishing and very encouraging.
Well, that is encouraging, but I just wonder too, because we know that it's not the presidential election in the midterms, but they're gonna pull every dirty trick in the book here, and Hegseth just wouldn't answer the question whether he would have troops at the polls or they would confiscate election voting machines and whatnot. So I don't put anything past them. I know that there will be chaos, and it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I am optimistic too that we will win if all things are fair and square and equal. I just think that they're not gonna go quietly no matter what. But maybe, I don't know, when we get there, maybe by the time we get there, things will be so bad that maybe some of the Republicans would abandon him by now or by then. I wonder what's it going to take, though. Really, it's they're still standing by him, and all of the cabinet, the cabinet of freaks and curiosities. How bad is that's what I call them. They're just the only requirement is to be a loyalist. So whatever he says, they're going to do. And Pete Hegseth would not say no to the fact when he was asked, will you confiscate voting machines? And of course, they do the dance around, but he wouldn't say no. So that's what they tried the last time. They had floated that, and there were some Republicans who said no, because they weren't completely, the way they are now. That's the other thing too. And I mean, there's so many things, like how I don't understand how anyone voted for this again. This is the thing when you think about the world. How will we ever get our reputation back, if ever? Because you do it once, and how can they forgive us for doing it again? For putting him back, and it's just so much worse than it was the first time, I think.
Oh, very much so.
Right.
Right.
One
of the really Oh yeah, and one of the most discouraging things that I think we're going to spend decades trying to repair, and hopefully we have the motivation to repair as American voters, as just citizens, is the idea that the last 10 years has telegraphed our suckerism. We've got way too many suckers in this country. People who can be easily duped and manipulated by obvious liars and propagandists.
Right.
Donald Trump, I always say Donald Trump is the most obvious liar in the world.
Yes.
I mean, and I really want to underscore obvious, because anyone who's got a brain in their head can recognize that this guy's a con man liar, and everything that comes out of his mouth, by and large, is either part of a con or a lie. And that the fact that there have been so many people who have supported this guy, knowing that level of deception, knowing that level of corruption, and how utterly incompetent and out of his depth he is as president.
Right.
There are, I mean, enemies right now are looking at the United States, and not just our leadership, but looking at the American people, at least, at the very least, 35% of the American voting population are a bunch of suckers and dupes and marks who are, once again, easily manipulated. So there are enemies who are willing to use the same techniques that Vladimir Putin has been using for the last 10 years, certainly the same techniques that Donald Trump has been using the last 10 years, to manipulate American voters to doing what they need them to do. Right. And it's really discouraging. And I'm not sure, I've floated the idea at one point or another of sort of an intervention with people we might know who are Donald Trump supporters, where, you try to break them like a cult member, like you would, if you had a family member who was in a cult. Like, what do you do about a family member who's in a cult? How do you draw them out of that? How do you rescue them from that cult? And I think to a certain extent, we all have this responsibility where at some point we're going to have to take the onus upon ourselves to go around to our friends and family and try to do what we can, some sort of intervention to rescue them and bring them back to a world in which they start to reject obvious propaganda, obvious disinformation. And the internet has a lot to do with that. Social media has a lot to do with that too. But it has happened. There's a great documentary called The Brainwashing of My Dad.
I've heard of it.
And it's by a director named Jen Senko. And it's a wonderful documentary with a bit of hope at the end. She ended up, rescuing her dad from the cult of republicanism. Yeah, it's an astonishing piece of work. Yeah,
but this is what I say all the time, that it's propaganda. That's why we're in this boat. We're in this boat because we have silos of information, and normal people go to our shows, or they'll the corporate media, MS Now, or but that MS Now and CNN and all that. That's not the liberal media, of course. That's the corporate media. That's the billionaire-owned media still, but they're not out. They do have ethics, and they do have some standards, unlike Fox News, which makes its viewers less informed than those who watch no news at all, and studies show. And so that's why, where in the past we had the same well of information. When Walter Cronkite said the war is lost, the American people, left and right, believed him. Now, Donald Trump has so devalued the currency of truth in America. This is what I wonder how we can get that back, really, because that's what he's done. It's so devious.
There were times in this country where Fox News Channel wouldn't have been able to exist. And I'm not talking from a political point of view. I'm talking about a propaganda point of view and a lie point of view, where everything that you see on Fox News Channel is either sculpted to pursue a certain agenda, where obviously there's a lot of lying and incendiary conversation that happens there, on top of the fact that even the straight news shows are constructed so that it also adheres to that agenda, where they may report objectively in a hard news report on Fox News. They may report that news objectively, but the stories are chosen to suit the agenda, to suit the narrative of Fox News. But going back to what I was saying about, what we've done in the past is, there was a movie called Quiz Show that was a true story about how there were congressional investigations about a game show being rigged. And it was a big deal that there was a game show on the air that was rigged. It was 21. And they actually, there was an inquest in Congress. And that was the time that I think
Yes.
Once again,
That's
if
right.
Fox News had been around at that point in time, I think there may have been investigations into Fox News for, for scamming viewers and
Yeah.
making people believe something is true when it's actually not true. And so these are things that maybe we need to revisit, but
I
it
think
becomes a
so.
challenge when you have the First Amendment. I mean, the First Amendment was ratified at a time when people assumed, well, Americans will act in good faith and and not abuse this right. And here we are with it
Right.
being abused. And so
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
necessarily something that we can censor, but I think there needs to be a level of veracity that is required by something that an organization that calls itself news,
Yeah.
especially in its branding. So
That's
that
true.
needs to, that needs to
Yeah.
be addressed for sure.
If you're going to sell a car, it has to be, it has to have 4 wheels, it has to
Yeah.
have, an engine. It
Yeah, you
has
can't
to-
say, well, the used car salesman has free speech, and so the used car salesman is lying to me about this car being a lemon. And it's a great point. And that's the sort of thing we need to, I think, begin to enforce. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the idea of the only real long-term change can come in the form of not legislation, but constitutional amendments.
Yeah.
I think we really need to start looking toward that as a remedy for so many things, especially while the Supreme Court is
Wow.
6-3 in favor of Donald Trump conservatives.
Oh,
And
God.
so,
Yeah.
And then the question then becomes, and this is more of a thought exercise, but what is easier to pursue at this point? Expanding the court and with the hopes of maybe the additional justices will start to overturn things and support overturning things like Citizens United and other horrendous pieces of legislation that have been handed down in the last 10 years? Or is it easier to just buckle down, do the hard work of electing supermajorities in both Congress and state legislatures, certainly governors, in order to ratify some constitutional amendments?
Right.
I mean, the conservative movement has been talking about, I think Mark Levin talks about liberty amendments. He's got like a list of 10 amendments that they want to ratify as soon as they get enough control over state legislatures, enough states with trifectas. Yeah. So I think we need to apply that same agenda to the pro-democracy coalition.
I think so too. Because the Constitution, and this is actually, I was talking about this with Robin Kincaid the other day, because we were talking about the Supreme Court and their bullshit, originalism. It's such bullshit, of course, where nobody's an originalist. We crawled out of the primordial ooze. We're meant to evolve. If we were conservative, we'd still be living in caves, right? I say, I'm an originalist. I only shit in a diaper like I did when I was a baby, right? Like I'm an originalist, right?
That's a great point. I'm going to steal that.
You can, please. And so it makes no sense, So the founders were not originalists. If they were originalists, they would never have rebelled against the crown. That's for sure. They
never would have created a process to add more amendments to the Constitution, which they did right away. I mean, the Bill of Rights was ratified practically right after the Constitution itself was signed and framed. And so, that's duh. I mean, that's one of the most discouraging things. I'm sure you've witnessed this when you watch Supreme Court arguments. Just how brutally dumb some of our leadership is in this country.
It's embarrassing.
It's also this way when you see congressional hearings and you see members of Congress, dealing in or asking questions of actual experts and seeing how inadequate and lacking in knowledge so many of our elected leadership.
Well, especially on the Republican side. I mean, look at Lauren Boebert. She's the worst because she's really, I mean, as you know, it took her 4 times to pass the GED right before she was sworn in. So she's not that smart, and it shows. And that's why she overcompensates by yelling when she's asking questions, because that's supposed to, I guess, intimidate whoever she's questioning. She likes they all do that. It's like Trump does it. They're so ignorant But yeah, and as far as the Supreme Court and everything, and constitutional amendments, I agree. That's what the founders made the Constitution, like you said, to be a living document, to evolve. They knew that times would change. And in fact, I was just listening to, I can't remember whose show it was, but they had on, maybe it was Tom Hartman, he had on an author of a book about the Constitution, a recent book about the Constitution as a living document, and how it was, and how it hasn't changed now in decades, and that's not supposed to be the way the Constitution was set up. It's supposed to evolve. We're supposed to have these conversations, but with the media the way it is, we're not going to get, and like you were saying earlier, the Democrats are evil. They can't even, you know what I mean? The way that they message about Democrats, the Dems are evil, and well, you can't compromise with evil. So you know, that's why we're here. You know, we can't, and people are like, oh, we're so divided. And well, you know, because they deliberately divide us, and it's on the right. It is not on the left. You don't hear Democrats saying things like that about Republicans, or they don't. The Republicans, even back to George W. Bush, the way he would campaign on, oh, we're not like those Massachusetts liberals or New York, California liberals. They still do that. Democrats don't do that. They don't go, oh, we're not like those Tennessee, you know, right-wingers. We're not like, you know, they're constantly dividing us, or we're real America. I mean, what the hell? Like, you know, we're all real America. I'm so sick of it, really. I'm so sick of, and I wonder if that's enough. Because before I, not to keep going on, but the one good sign is that for the first time you might have heard in generations now, and I think 50 years, I wrote an article for Political Voices about it, Democrats are beating Republicans on who's better for the economy, even though all evidence, you know, for forever says it's Democrats. Of course it is. And now it's breaking through, because reality is overcoming the propaganda, and that's a good sign.
It's about damn time, too. I mean, one of the statistics historically that I talk about on my show is every Republican president, I think since Hoover, has presided over a recession.
Yes.
During their presidency.
8 of 9 recessions were during Republican administrations.
Exactly, exactly right. And that's certainly not the case with Democrats. And it looks like Donald Trump could end up presiding over 2 recessions.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that people tend to forget, certainly in the context of the 2024 election, is that during Donald Trump's presidency, you know, he frames himself as part of his propaganda that he's the guy who builds things. But yet in 2019, prior to COVID, there was a manufacturing recession. Conversely, during Joe Biden's administration, there was a manufacturing boom.
Yes.
That's really all you need to know as far as just a microcosmic comparison between a Republican president and a Democratic president. The Republican president presided not only over a manufacturing recession, but a deep economy-wide recession on top of that. And then Joe Biden came in. It was this endless cycle of freezing and thawing, sort of like in the winter times here in the East Coast, where a Republican comes in, screws the economy, gigantic tax cuts for the super wealthy, for the millionaires and billionaires, and then a Democrat has to come in and clean up the mess. And then the news media and way too many American voters are completely impatient with the Democrat who's got to clean up the mess. So consequently, for example, in 2010, you had a lot of Democratic voters going around on the internet saying, you know, I'm disappointed that Barack Obama didn't do yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Barack Obama saved the global economy from lapsing into a second Great Depression. I mean, I don't think we recognize how close we were to 1930s style horrendousness. I almost said Donald Trump.
I
Barack
know.
Obama prevented that from happening with a series of deft moves where he used his political capital.
Yeah.
In fact, he spent most of his political capital, if not all of his political capital, coming out of that watershed election of 2008 to pass an enormous piece of healthcare legislation
Yes.
that hadn't been done since Medicare. And in fact, Medicare was supposed to be a much broader piece of healthcare reform, and it didn't happen. It was, LBJ settled for just Medicare. And
Shame.
so then Medicaid on top of that. But Barack Obama created this legislation that to me is the infrastructure toward getting us to some sort of universal government-run health insurance program like every other industrial nation
Right.
has in the world right now. We have such a ludicrous healthcare program or healthcare system.
Yeah.
And Barack Obama did that. And in fact, there were lots of people on his own side, including his own chief of staff, who wanted him to cut bait and let it go and just move on,
Oh, wow.
do other things. And he refused to do that. And at the same time, rescued the American auto industry, passed a huge reinvestment piece of legislation that created all kinds of infrastructure, which created jobs. I mean, it was an immense accomplishment. And yet we get to 2010 and they're like, well, he said you can keep your doctor if you want to keep it in the website. The healthcare.gov website is janky. So let's elect a bunch of Republicans because that worked out so well in 2008, didn't it?
Right.
I mean, with the meltdown, the economic
It's so
meltdown.
true. It's so
Yeah.
true. And then that became the lie of the year, right? If you like your doctor, you can keep it. And they still talk about it today. That's the Republicans for you. They never shut up about something when they have some lie or some talking point that works. And it's and the other thing with Obamacare, I have much criticisms, or what the criticism is, of course, there's no public option. That's I think that we would not have to endure them kicking people off and all their dirty tricks if we did have a public option or expanded Medicare somehow. But the Republicans are the ones that sabotaged it. They took out every mechanism that makes Obamacare the Affordable Care Act, right? They took out the risk pools. They took out now the subsidies, everything that made it affordable. So that's why they're like, oh, it's so unaffordable, So like they sabotage everything, and then they bitch about it. But what's your plan, man? They got none. Their plan is,
health
go
savings
die.
accounts, which are ridiculous.
God.
Yeah, that's all they've got. Health
Exactly.
savings accounts. That's been a zombie bullshit thing for decades now. It's the only thing the Republicans have as far as that goes.
They got nothing.
They're really good at complaining about an enormously positive piece of legislation where I think a lot of people forget that the Affordable Care Act is a lot more than just the exchanges and the subsidies. The Affordable Care Act has an entire menu of dozens of consumer protections that are invaluable. I mean, prior to the Affordable Care Act, people would get kicked off of their insurance as soon as they were sick or injured. And so it was just nightmare scenarios of people getting cancer or getting in a car accident, and then suddenly their health insurance yoinks their insurance away and they're stuck, and they end up with medical debt and filing bankruptcy. And so that's one of the many things. I mean, caps on out-of-pocket expenses annually and lifetime, and caps on premiums, and it's an incredible piece of legislation. And if Donald Trump had ever gotten away with overturning the entire legislation, which he almost did, it would have been a cataclysm of epic proportions in this country. And it's already really bad given that they eliminated the expanded ACA subsidies that Joe Biden passed. So, that's another
backwards.
great example. I mean, 20 million people kicked off their health insurance or canceled.
This is what they have done to this country in the past year. People are sicker, income disparity is worse, everything's more expensive. I mean, this is what Republicans do because they don't give a shit. And now they need a ballroom, and because they can't govern. They don't want to govern. I mean, when you hate government, they like government. They just don't like democracy. That's the thing. It's they like government fine. They just don't like freedom and democracy. So, but the problem really is, I believe, is the Democratic messaging. Like everything you're saying, my sister, like for example, my sister would say, "Why don't you get that Obamacare?" Like people think it's a health insurance plan, you know? Yeah, and I'm like, I said, do you have Obamacare? She's like, no, I have my company's whatever. I'm like, you have Obamacare. Everybody has Obamacare, okay?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're all on Obamacare. It's like you're saying, the regulations that
Yes.
now you can't get kicked off. Now they have to, you could buy health insurance. I as a freelancer my whole life, I didn't have health insurance for a long time because I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't, and then you have all these pre-existing conditions you can't, I mean, and that's like what Wendell Potter, who wrote that book, Deadly Spin, is it Deadly Spin? Anyway, but he was the insider who became a whistleblower. He worked for Aetna, I believe, and one of his jobs was to kick people off. If you got a catastrophic diagnosis, immediately you would go into this office where a group of people or whatever, however many there were, they would go through your application and try to find out a way to kick you off your care. So if you went to get a flu shot or whatever, that was fine. So that's why when after Obamacare, they said, "Oh, my health insurance used to be like $200, and now it's this," because you didn't have health insurance. You didn't have hospitalization. That's one thing that Obamacare, regulates. You have to have, if you're selling health insurance, it has to include these things: prescriptions, hospitalization, preventative. It wasn't like that back in the day anyway. But it's like we got a lot of work to do with messaging, because the fact that the American people don't know this is so infuriating to me.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I think one of the things that goes beyond basic messaging, which certainly is a problem on the Democratic side, where
Right.
I think as Democrats, the tendency is to take the high road and to be the grown-ups in the room. And
Yes.
Republicans have certainly exploited that. And by Republicans, I mean Republican consultants who are, was talking about the history of why we are where we are. Republican consultants are a big reason why. And so as far as the Democratic Party goes, and attaining majorities sufficient enough to ratify constitutional amendments to,
yes,
I think, codify some of the things we need to do beyond what the Supreme Court would inevitably strike down. So in order to do that, we need to begin to, I think, educate more and more Democratic voters and new voters with the idea that it's more than just electing a Democratic president. You have to elect the Democratic president, and then on top of that, provide that Democratic president with a Democratic Congress.
Right. Otherwise,
and I think that's one of the things that, exactly. There's not a whole lot that Democratic president can do without majorities in Congress.
That's true. Because they're not a king, and that's what Obama used to say, I'm not a king. And even though they would call him the imperial president all the time. And now, look, they have a king. Uh-oh, are you frozen? Are you frozen there? Uh-oh, we got a frozen one. Uh-oh, I think he's frozen. Am I frozen? Uh-oh. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there we go. We got frozen for a second there. I was frozen. You were frozen. We were frozen. So I know I've kept you very long.
I hope I had a really weird look on my face.
No, you were like, it was hard to tell if you were frozen or not. So that's good. What you weren't like, you were like, oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
That's how you looked. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, maybe that was that. Maybe. All right. Well, I'm glad that it didn't look silly.
Yeah, it wasn't like, you weren't drooling or anything. So don't worry.
Yeah.
So I know I've kept you a long time. So what do you, I don't know. I have so many questions, but one of the things I think about is the Democrats going on the offense. And I have a dream that they will pick up FDR's second Bill of Rights and run with that. And I wonder, I think we have to have a positive vision for the country, not just always on defense with these Republicans.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
I think one of the things the Democratic Party would do well to ignore are focus groups. I think we need to disconnect from the focus group industrial complex that has kind of guided some of the more timid Democratic messaging.
Yes.
I think we're afraid to, go too far with our messaging. We're afraid to say what needs to be said. I think the real model, and I've never been a hardcore Bernie guy, but I think there's a lot to be learned from both Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani, who have a way of pitching ideas that up to this point have been somewhat unpopular, but they can do it. I mean, I've seen Bernie Sanders go to MAGA voters and convince them to support universal health care, Medicare for all. And so there's a serious lesson to be learned. And it's just a matter of watching Bernie and learning from Bernie how he does it. And not necessarily, because sometimes he does this thing in Congress or in the Senate where he does these poison pill kind of votes where, and that's fine. That's his style. But beyond that, the way he messages his ideas, the way he sticks to message discipline more than anything else, where, you could ask him about, well, did you see this did you see what Donald Trump said? And without even blinking, Bernie Sanders would go off on did I just call him Bernie Sandals?
Sandals.
Bernie Sanders will go off on the millionaires and billionaires like he always does. Like he can immediately pivot to whatever his message happens to be. And it's pig-headed in all the best ways. So I think that is something that the broader Democratic Party could seriously learn from. And I think positioning itself as the economic populist party is absolutely the way to go. Whether you like it or not, American voters vote based on their pocketbooks. They vote based on the economy. Obviously, there are many other very, very important issues, but what happens is when people walk into a voting booth, ultimately it comes down to, well, things need to be more affordable for me and my family, so I'm going to vote for the candidate who I think is going to make things more affordable for me and my family. And I think the best way to do that is for Democrats to position themselves as being, they tax the rich party, you know what I mean? And Bernie's already laid the groundwork. It's just a matter of picking up that baton and running with it.
It's true. And because people, they want that. What I learned too, years ago when I was in, when I was with Mike Malloy, we were in Washington and the Supreme Court was hearing the Obamacare argument. And there were the Tea Party people outside doing their, get your Medicaid, get your government hands off my Medicare, and that is a thing. I actually talked to that lady that had a big Mickey Mouse hand, and but they want health care too, and I think it really does come down to propaganda, and there's a way to message it because even during Trump. When you talk to these people, they think that illegals and undeserving people are getting Medicare, like they're taking advantage. That's why they can't have Medicare. And if we got rid of the illegals, then then their Social Security would go up, their Medicare would go up. And they really believe that. And so I think that they're learning the hard way. So right now, because I thought mass deportation now, everybody's Social Security should be up if we're mass deporting everybody, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's all been a scam, and I appreciate what you do, of course, because this is how we get the word out. I believe it all begins with the message, and the Democrats are bad at this, so I think have to help them. And there's a way to message with patriotism, and that's how I believe like we can grab the conservatives. You you frame it as a patriotic imperative. You know, we don't leave people behind. We don't leave people behind on the battlefield. We don't leave them behind on the battlefield of sickness, on the battlefield of education. You know, we're in this together. And hopefully by the end of the Trump maladministration, people will be sick of the division, I think. I don't know. Maybe that'll be something good that comes out of it on the great getting up morning. Right? What do you think?
Yeah.
You know,
most definitely.
I wonder, and because here's the thing: when he goes, the whole world will explode in celebration. It will be the most, memorable event, I believe. God, I wonder. Anyway, let's not talk about that because I get too
we
giddy.
can sit here and imagine that.
I know. It makes me too happy, and I just don't know what to do with that.
But going back to what you're saying about messaging real quick, is one thing I wanted to add is that if you look at Republican messaging, by and large, you see Republican messaging not coming from Republican members of Congress or Republican legislators. What you see is the MAGA entertainment complex. That's where the messaging comes from.
Right.
And so I think it really, the onus ultimately is on people like you and me.
Yes.
And others we know who are in the liberal podcastosphere and so forth. We're really ultimately responsible for the messaging. And so then, by extension, it's crucial that I think people support those of us who do this,
I agree.
especially shows like yours, and make sure that that message is buttressed by, the support that it requires, the reach that it requires in a social media age. So that's enormously crucial. We just can't, I don't think the DNC is necessarily designed to come up with effective framing for issues. The DNC is tasked with raising money for candidates and raising money for, commercials and things like that, video. And so it's up to the rest of us, I think, to run with that ball and to, support that kind of messaging.
Right, because that's been one of my big frustrations, though, with the Democrats and the mainstream media too, is that they don't support the smaller podcasters. They don't do it, and the Republicans did that for years, and because they have nothing else, they don't have actual legislation. They have, they have legislation. They don't have. It's all bullshit. They're running on bullshit. And so they need their shows. So they were very smart. Like what's his name? The Mercer family gave Breitbart $6 million. He started Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart started that website, and then the Mercer family, the billionaires, swooped in and gave him $6 million to build it. Yeah, like this is what they do to their smaller independent content creators. And then they would put them on Fox News, and then it becomes like a whole network of building them up. And the liberals don't do that. And that's, I think, really part of the problem too. So Well, also we have integrity, and we like to be able to sleep at night. So there's that too. No, that's true.
And,
that's true.
One of the things that fuels the MAGA entertainment complex, and has been doing so for 50, 60 years now, is what you're talking about is wealthy conservative financiers.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Who pump all kinds of cash into the bank accounts of everyone from Ben Shapiro to Alex Jones to Donald Trump, for that matter.
Yep.
And in what that includes, and this is very often in the social media and podcast space, is a lot of these guys who do these podcasts are able to have the money to be able to buy their audience, to be able to purchase downloads, purchase shares, purchase social media clout. And it's something they've been doing, as I said, for decades with bulk book purchasing.
Right.
It's well known that conservative books get published, and then wealthy financiers come in and buy stacks and stacks of the books in order to get those books on the bestseller charts. And it's sort of a, if you build it, they will come kind of situation.
Right.
where if it looks like they're successful, then people start to gravitate toward that appearance of success.
Right.
And so that's why it goes on. And I'm 100% positive that that's what happens in the podcast space.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's true. It's a Potemkin village, really. A lot of it is.
Yeah.
And then they do start getting more eyeballs because they're, like you said, it's people like, oh well, this must be a very popular show. Why aren't I following it or whatnot? But yeah, and because they don't have their messages, let them eat hate. Really, all they have is hate and division, and we're trying to make the world safe for democracy here now, and also trying to even help them. That's the other thing about the MAGAs, because I'm like, we don't hate them. I don't hate them. I don't like them. I don't know, whatever. They're annoying, and they voted for a baboon, but I'm trying to make sure they don't have to die, like that they could get health care, that they can go on a vacation, take a sick day, you know what I mean? Have a decent life like the rest of the world. So yeah, not that the rest of everybody has a decent life, but there are ways that we're certainly, we're not taking advantage. I mean, the American dream and all this, it's like, it is so stressful being an American. That's one thing that I don't think many people in other countries understand, the stress, because it really is. We're all walking around with like a sword of Damocles over our heads if we get sick. If you get a catastrophic diagnosis, you don't have sick leave, maybe not have health care. You got to end up like, I got to go like, okay, I just found out I'm really sick and now I got to make a fucking video for GoFundMe. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so many other countries so many other nations are doing democracy better than the United States at this point. And maybe we need to relearn what that's all about.
Right.
I don't even know where to start in that process, but I think that's got to be a goal.
We got a lot of work to do. And I appreciate you. Thank you for taking all this time and hanging out at the little Tarabuster.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Tara. Thank you so much.
Community. Wow.
Yeah.
I hope, will you be
sorry,
back?
I'm gonna blame Xfinity for the janky internet earlier.
It's fine. It's fine. We're all used to the technical difficulty. If there aren't technical difficulties on Tarabuster, then it's not. People are like, is this the show?
Oh yeah. In the old days in radio, we had engineers who would come running in to fix things, and now it's just us.
Right. Exactly. And that's why we say, we don't have big billionaire benefactors. That's why we only have each other. And I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate you for taking the time and supporting the show and everything that you do, because we're not going to win without it. We really won't. We will win with people like you, and that's how the Poles took back their government from authoritarianism, because they had like a similar situation where they had independent content creators that could speak truth to the regime, and it worked. It helped. So thankfully we still have that. All right, Bob, thank you for hanging out, and hopefully will you come back someday?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. Especially if we spend as much time as we did today talking about Star Trek.
I will. I mean, because what happened was I broke my leg, and this was like many years ago. I broke my leg at a picnic, and I was in bed for 3 months. I had to have an operation on my leg, and a friend of mine gave me every episode of Next Generation, and I watched. It was on VHS tapes though, and I watched every single episode, and I remember dreaming about it, and it was great. I loved it. So it was the first time I ever saw it. It was great. It was amazing.
Yeah, that is my Star Trek. Next Generation is my Star Trek show. Yep.
What a great show! It really was. And when I finished all episodes, I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. It was so I really crashed badly. All right, Bob.
Right, I know what you mean.
Yes.
Okay, well, live long and prosper,
yes,
Tara. We'll talk to you next time.
My friend. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, everybody. Bob Cesca, the great Bob Cesca. I have to figure out a better way to end interviews, go into a blank screen where a guest is supposed to be. It doesn't look too good, I guess. Oh well. Oh's wells. And he originally said, wait, wrong screen. Where am I going here? He originally said he only had a half an hour. That's why I'm very grateful he stayed for an hour. So that's pretty good. Pretty damn good. And thank you, everybody. And thank you, Hal Sparks, Raid, Sparklers. Nice to see you. Thank you, Andrea, for the raid. And everyone for being here. I'm like basking in the Bob Cesca glow over here. Damn. And thank you, Charlie from APS Radio News, for everything you do to keep the show going and growing, your support of the community cats. And I hope everything sounded good and looked good. I wasn't able to really pay attention to the chat because it was kind of, what do you call it, buffering a little bit. And as you saw, he froze for a minute there. So I was afraid to go around and every time I clicked on something else, everything seemed to slow down. So I don't know what was happening. We were having some buffering problems. But all right, so let's see. I wanted to ask him about something else, but he was already over a half hour, and but I wanted to ask him about this bullshit here. Let me see, because we still have an hour in the show. So thank you for hanging out. I'm very happy you're here. We meet here every Friday night, 8:30-ish p.m. on the Tarabuster YouTube channel, Political Voices Substack, and Tarabuster Substack. Subscribe to my Substack, become a member, all that, so we can, Bob, what am I saying? As Bob said, you gotta support, because otherwise we're doomed. We are doomed, people, without the liberal media. And this is the liberal media. You're looking at it. I know. And you didn't see many cats tonight because I put them in the bedroom because they were getting on my nerves. I love them dearly, but they were getting very rambunctious. And Tara Jr. jumped on my lap and he started biting the microphone, and I was like, I can't deal with this with Bob. So I put him in the bedroom where he is probably looking out the window. He's fine. He's the king of the castle, but he's, I don't want him biting the mic when we got a guest. Okay, where is my eCam? Here. I love him. So what else are we going to talk about? Let me see. Where the fuck is my eCam? I'm sorry, guys. Shit. I'm trying to put this up here. Okay. There we go. Maybe not. Oh, yeah. What is that? You could see Farrago there. That's not supposed to be there. Let me see why. Alright, move that, put that. Son of a bitch. Alright, these guys. I don't know if you saw this. Right after the Supreme Court, the corrupt and illegitimate Supreme Court eviscerated the Voting Rights Act, a day later? We get these three guys? These three mother effers? 3 Dems vote to advance a Trumpanzee justice to a lifetime position on the court. And what? Sheldon Whitehouse? I can see, what's his name? Dick Durbin, all right? He's annoying. But Sheldon Whitehouse is really disappointing. And it really irritates me that, where's Chuck Schumer? This is what I'm talking about. Chuck Schumer, as the leader of the Democrats, has leverage over Democrats. He can use his influence and his leadership position. He could say, you're not going to get funds from the DNC, you're not going to sit on a committee, you're not going to, whatever it might be, if you don't vote with the rest of us. Why? We saw what happened with the corrupt and illegitimate Supreme Court. Why are you advancing an election denier? Why are you helping Trump pack the courts? And did the Democrats get the memo? Maybe not. Why? I'm trying to figure out why the headline is being cut off here, because it's not being cut off for me. Only in the eCam is it being cut off. So it's kind of annoying. But anyway, whatever. So, yeah, I don't get it. Dems, this is what's so annoying about them. Then people want fighters. They seem to not be getting the memo either. 3 Democrats, they're all in the Senate Judiciary Committee. They voted with Republicans to advance a judicial nominee who refused to acknowledge that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. And why would you do that? What's wrong with you? So Dick Durbin, Chris Coons, and Sheldon Whitehouse all voted Thursday to send Trader Trump's nominee, Sheria Atkins Clark, who is up for a seat on the U.S. District Court, to the South Carolina, to the full Senate for her confirmation. Like all of Trump's nominees to lifetime federal judgeships, Clark refused to say that Trump lost the 2020 election. Well, if that's going to be a litmus test for Republicans, then it has to be a litmus test for the Democrats. Why are they helping the Republicans at all? The midterms are right around the corner. And they're helping Trump pack the courts in the meantime? I mean, we saw what happened when the Democrats were in the majority. The Republicans were able to pull all kinds of dirty tricks to stop judicial nominees and stop things from moving forward. What's his face? Tommy Tuberville put a stop on military promotions for nearly 18 months. So they don't have any leverage here. Why are you allowing Trump to pack the courts? Trump, of all people, an insurrectionist, okay? An insurrectionist, a traitor, a rapist, a con man, a liar, everything, a waste of human DNA. I don't understand why any Democrats are voting at all for any nominee, any Republican on the bench, to put them on the bench. Can anybody explain this to me? Because it's confusing to me, given what we're up against. It makes me want to scream, and I'm just looking at the chat here. Maybe somebody can explain it to me, why the Democrats would do this when their only job right now is like when we were talking with Bob, and he said that Obama saved us at the time from the second Republican Great Depression. Yeah, but I forgot to mention that the Republicans were I can't talk. Why can't I talk? The Republicans had vowed on the night of Obama's inauguration to prevent him from doing anything, to commit legislative constipation, to cause pain to the American people for political gain. That was what they did for the next 4 years. They stood in front of everything and anything that Obama tried to do, and they tried to slow it down or stop it. And, he was as successful as he was, despite the Republican obstruction. But that was their plot. So there are things that the Democrats can do. It just seems like it's a little bit confusing to me that they're putting Trumpanzees on the bench that can't even say that they believe in reality. And when you say that Joe Biden, whatever, the way they put it, Joe Biden was inaugurated, he was sworn in as president. Did Joe Biden win the 2020 election? Well, he was sworn in. That's how they get around it. It's pathological, it's disturbing, and it says that they are unfit to be on the bench, especially for a lifetime position. I don't get it. I do not get it. So, insane. None of these Democrats, according to the article I read about this, none of them could be reached for comment. Why would you do that? Why? All right, another thing is happening. We're talking about everything is always happening. Things are always happening. What the fuck? My eCam is always fucking up, too. I try to make it nice. This is why we can't have nice things. What the fuck is going on with my eCam? Just trying to put things up. This is an article about, let me do that. I'll just do that. Fucking Christ. That's an ad. All right. So Republicans in Nebraska are already fucking, they hate the people they pretend to represent, and the big ugly bill passed by these monsters includes work requirements for Medicaid. So they're already screwing the poor and the politically unconnected, making lives harder, shorter, worse, kicking people off of health care, of course. And here's another case in point. Nebraska Republicans. Now the big ugly bill doesn't actually go into effect for another, I think, 9 months. It's around 9 months. So they're not reforming Medicaid, they're weaponizing it now. So they're using paperwork to throw the poor and working class people off of health care as fast as possible. And it's not about personal responsibility. I mean, I know they say this. See, everyone on Earth, everyone in, is this the end of the political voices part of the show? Oh my lord, no, not yet, hold on. So everyone on Earth in other countries, it doesn't matter. You don't have to prove your worth to go to a doctor. You're worthy just because you're alive and you're a human being, and they don't live in around absolute monsters. But here in America, even that filthy Dr. Oz, what did he say? That you had to prove that you were worthy. They didn't want to spend money on people who weren't worthy for health care. Like why would you waste your health care on the undeserving poor? You got to be deserving. And there's a real sick strain in the American consciousness about the poor in general. Being poor is like a moral failing. And in the American zeitgeist, there is a category. There are people that think, there are deserving poor and undeserving poor. And healthcare, and Republicans, they divvy out healthcare depending on who's worthy or not. They don't, forget what Jesus said. All these good Christians, Jesus wasn't like, are you worthy? Well, Dr. Oz, he's the head of Medicaid, Medicare services, right? He's what a horrible person. What, you think about, what's her name? Oprah. All these losers she propelled to national prominence. And all the way that they talk about poor people. Dr. Oz, he said, here's some things he said about the poor. He said, oh yes, in a 2013 speech to the National Governors Association, that he said that uninsured Americans don't have a right to health care. Fuck you, Dr. Oz. They only have the right to access the chance to get health care. Whatever that means, okay? He told Fox Business in June of 2025 that Medicaid recipients that are facing new work requirements should prove that you matter. That's how he put it. And take charge of your life. Don't be such a loser. Don't be such a pores. He said anyone unwilling to work should be denied coverage and pushed off the exchange. Go fuck yourself. These are evil. This is, they call Democrats evil. We're trying to make sure that everyone has health care. We don't check whether they're worthy. And according to Republicans, you're only worthy if you're rich. It's that Calvinist mindset that if God made you rich, then God must love you. And God, and as soon, it's only a slim, short trip from that kind of mindset to the rich should rule us, because that's what God wants. That's the whole history of Western civilization right there, that this country was founded as an antidote to. It was supposed to be the antidote to that kind of thinking, that kind of bullshit. Because we have, the whole history of Western civilization proving that it doesn't take, it doesn't take but a few generations. You go from Augustus to Nero. You go from, and then and no one likes living like that. We don't like living under Caligula and Nero and, madness. So, and human beings shouldn't have to live like that. We should vote for our representatives, get rid of them when they're like Nero, and legally and peacefully get rid of them. We shouldn't have to be subjected to them simply because they were born into a family that's rich. But that's the kind of system Republicans want. Make no mistake, guys. Stop me when I'm wrong. That's the system they're putting together. Oh, that triggers the libs, right? They're just kidding. No, they're not. Triggers the libs. It should trigger them. But it proves that they don't like America, that this America thingy is way over their heads, and they loathe it. They really don't like it. They don't want to live in a system of freedom and democracy and self-governance and rule of law and constitution and all. So Dr. Oz said, he told an audience, let me see, the same audience that he said, prove that you matter and then you can get health care. Because that's what, I thought he took a Hippocratic oath. No. His is conditional. It's always conditional. He told the same audience that it never occurred to anyone that able-bodied individuals who work would need Medicaid. Well, isn't that weird, Dr. Oz? You doctor. He's a doctor. He doesn't know that health is a tenuous thing. It's changeable. You could be healthy one day and not healthy the next. That's how it is. That's why Republicans their policies are bullshit. They would say, oh, well, you should get the health insurance you need, your family needs. Well, how the fuck do you know what you need? You don't get it. It doesn't work like that. You don't say, well, I'm not going to get the gold plan because I'm not going to get cancer this year. I'll put my cancer off until next year. That's not how it works. Cancer doesn't care about your schedule. And, so it's really stupid to say that, oh, I don't need health insurance this year, or you get the lower plan that your family needs. How do you know what your family needs? Your family might need the more health care because you might have a catastrophic diagnosis. And we shouldn't have to live like that. And like I was saying to Bob, it really is hard to explain to people who aren't from this country just how stressful it is being an American. Constantly you're being shit on. You're treated like shit. There's no protections. You have no days off. You can't take a sick day, or unless you live in a blue state. Here in New York, there's 5 days legislated that where it doesn't matter where you work, you are entitled to 5 whole days of sick leave. 5 whole days. You better hope you have a cold. Jesus Christ. And everything is so stressful. Like, I don't want to go on GoFundMe. If I get sick, like, I gotta, I better make sure I get some really good shots of myself throwing up or getting my treatments. And when I'm really struggling to get out of bed, get all those good human moments, because you better hope your GoFundMe video goes viral. What a disgrace. And anyway, the reason I brought these assholes up is that Nebraska, thanks to the big ugly bill and Dr. Oz and all these horrible people that hate America and hate Americans, they really do. They hate the American people. They have such disrespect for us. Well, the Medicaid work mandate is in effect in Nebraska, even though the big ugly bill doesn't call for it to go into effect for another 9 months. But the Nebraskan Republicans couldn't wait. They just couldn't wait to unleash all that suffering. So there was an article about Shamika Simpson, who lives in Omaha, Nebraska. She has 3 children. She works 3 jobs. She already works 3 jobs, you see? And sometimes she has to get another job to keep a roof over her head and feed her children. Well, on May 1st, Nebraska decided that working 3 jobs wasn't enough. And she's getting kicked off her insurance, thanks to the big, beautiful bill. Oh, and here's the music. That's the end of the Progressive Voices part of the show. Thank you for hanging out. Check out Charlie's APS Radio News, APS Radio, and APS Radio News. Classic rock and oldies all day long. Classical music station, and a station that has independent media commentators like myself and Cindy Sheehan. Thank you, Charlie, for all you do for the community, cats. Thank you, patrons at patreon.com/Tara Devlin. Please subscribe to my YouTubes, my series of tubes, and my Substacks, my series of stacks. All right, how's that? All right, so let's get back. Shamika works as a patient advocate, an administrative assistant, and a part-timer at Dunkin' Donuts. And she has relied on Medicaid since 2014 because she got divorced and none of her jobs offer health benefits because she lives in America. She's exactly the able-bodied adult that Mike Johnson smeared as a couch-dwelling video game addict. See how they do, the American people? See how much respect they have? And she's now expected to file paperwork proving that her own existence to a state agency that already lost her food assistance and, apparently this is all technical stuff. She qualifies. Because how do you work 3 jobs in America and still qualify for public assistance? But welcome to America. Trump needs a ballroom. We got $1 billion a day for an illegal and unconstitutional, unpopular war to distract from the fact that Trump is all over the Epstein files committing crimes against children. We have money for that. We have money for things that aren't life-affirming, that don't help the American people. But we don't have any money for Shamika's health insurance or anybody's. Anything good or decent. It's unreal. And Mehmet Oz, just like Dr. Phil, was put on the national stage by Oprah. Does anybody know if Oprah has atoned yet or apologized for doing this to us? For making these people national figures? Because he would not be, Mehmet Oz would not be the head of Medicaid and Medicare services if not for Oprah. He's a former daytime TV huckster he spent decades selling magic beans, magic green coffee bean pills for your colon, and now he runs the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare and other things, other snake oil bullshit, just grifts like Trader Trump. I don't know where that came from. Trader Trump. It's a very high-pitched Trader Trump. It didn't sound like me. I didn't recognize my own voice. So let's see. Oz told KFF Health News that self-attesting is not favored and documentation is vital, which is rich, coming from a man whose own documentation has consisted of testimonials from chiropractors and a guy who claimed raspberry ketones melt your fat, right? Melt your belly fat. Eat your raspberries. I mean, he's evil. This is evil. He built a fortune, this con man, convincing sick people to buy garbage. Sick and desperate people living in a country without universal health care and no living wages, a 5% unionized workforce, used to be 35. So retirement security is out the door. Living paycheck to paycheck. The American middle class used to be 2/3 of the population. Now it's less than 50% of the population. So into that perfect storm came Dr. Oz and his magic beans and his miracle cures. Right? And I guess it's along the lines of, what's that? That miracle, that horse pill they all eat. Could you imagine being so fucking stupid that you don't want to take a vaccine, but you'll eat a horse pill, and then you'll go on the internet and say, what should my dosage be? My horse pill dosage. What's the name of that horse pill? It's escaping me. Oh, whatever. because they still sell it. It's all over. If you go on their right-wing talk shows or their networks, you know, the real kooky ones, I can't even believe it when I see it. It'll have ads rolling across the bottom of the screen, like get your horse pills at horsepillsrus.com, next to the buy gold ads. It's all scams. They're all scammers. Oh yes, ivermectin. Thank you guys. And hydroxychloroquine. Thank you, Deb, and thank you, the Rantler. Ivermectin. They still sell that shit. Where can I get my ivermectin? And they still, let me see, can I find, I remember seeing it recently too, and I was like, what the fuck? They're still selling this. Even after the pandemic is over, they're still selling ivermectin. For what? What do you got? Fungus? You got fungus? Where? In your nether regions? I don't know. Take a shower. Change your underwear. Maybe they're originalists. They're shitting in their pants. Like babies, you know. They might be originalists. I only shit in a diaper. Or I only shit my pants. Like I did when I was a baby. I am an originalist. Right? Let me see. I'm trying to find ivermectin. Conservatives. I'm asking the AI. I'm trying to put it politely. Conservatives are still peddling ivermectin. How should I put this? Can you find me an example? All right, we'll see. An exam. How do you spell example? I'm just kidding. I just can't type. All right. Yeah, but what a horrible time to be alive. The only day that's going to be a good day to be alive is the great getting up morning, I believe. That's going to be a day. I've been thinking about that day. Legally and peacefully, trust me. Because, you know, I'm a little stressed out myself. Things are stressful. And sometimes a girl's got a dream. You know what I mean? You got to hold on. I just can't believe it. You know what I mean? That's why things are stressful in general. And then I have to listen to Trump. And I can't believe it. I just can't believe this country. And it's very depressing. And as you guys know, I am very susceptible to the world. I get affected by things, and I can't believe it. It really does play on my hope. That's why I like listening to Bob Cesca, because he's just so confident that the Democrats are going to really sweep in the midterms. And I believe they will win, but I know there'll be dirty tricks. And I wonder about the Senate because of the dirty tricks. So, it's hard. It's hard to say what's going on. Yeah, so let's see. Conservative figures are absolutely still promoting ivermectin. Let me see. 1 second. Where's I have too many windows open here. Something is fucked up with my eCam. Son of a bitch. Paywall. Paywall. So what I'm trying to do with my show is when I talk about things, I've been trying to like put just put it up there. So instead of just my face. All right. We'll just put this up there. It also helps me when I'm doing shorts and whatnot. It helps me pick out the topics we were talking about. So yeah, let me see. The New York Times reported in March 2025, Joe Grinsteiner, a Trump-supporting country musician and right-wing influencer who posts viral videos of himself eating horse-paste ivermectin on Facebook and claiming it cured his skin cancer and his wife's cervical cancer. He even made nonverbal autistic child start talking, he said. Ivermectin! Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to yell in your ear. I gotta find this video. And I have to find it now. The show. Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't even tell me. Because I'm looking at Joe Rogan hawking at ivermectin. You see what I'm saying? This is why this country is swirling the drain because of people like Joe Rogan. And I have to tell you, today, so I have a TikTok account. I started doing shorts and putting up TikTok videos and YouTube videos, hoping to grow the channel. And it's kind of growing like fucking paint drying. So, and I know it's because the political content, lefty political content, is throttled to within an inch of its life. And that is really frustrating. So that's why I need your support. Really, I'm telling you. And so today when I was looking at one of the videos, I put up a video, and it said, do you want to spend $20 to get more subscribers? You can boost this video. And it was a video where I said that, a clip from the show where I said 95% of teachers spend their own money on school supplies. And then I went off on Trump's ballroom. And I said, yes, but we got enough money for a ballroom. It was like a 20-second video. And they rejected it. Okay? They said it's political content. And on TikTok? So this is what we're dealing with. I just wonder why or if these right-wing accounts, they seem to get free reign all over. They get boosted. They get recommended into your feeds. I'm not being paranoid here. This is what is happening. They are deliberately throttling liberal content because who owns these platforms? The billionaires own them. They have the money. They have the money to stop it. They don't want the truth getting out there. They want Republicans to win. They want those tax cuts. It's never enough money for them. Doesn't matter. They have $1 billion. Doesn't matter. They'll be fine with, I don't know, half a bill. You'll be all right? With half a bill. So, I can't find the video. There's no videos. Can't find it. Anyway, so he thought he says he's a grifter, of course. I'm sure his videos aren't being throttled at all. curing his wife's cervical cancer. He even made a nonverbal autistic child start talking. He says he takes ivermectin daily for his health, and his videos have gotten millions of views this year alone, largely within conservative spaces. Of course they have. When you think about how much harm conservatives do to each other and to and do to this world with all their bullshit, you know, if only they could focus on being decent people or helping people. Like, shut the fuck up with your stupidity, your ivermectin. Why is ivermectin the miracle cure? Insane. Okay, here's more ivermectin insanity. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed a law allowing over-the-counter sale of ivermectin. What? She framed it as, or not just her, conservatives framed it as medical freedom, a medical freedom bill. Despite federal warnings and lack of good evidence that it has any value for human consumption. And who are they to take this shit? Because they're not taking it, they're not being prescribed. It's not like they have fungus or they got horse fungus problems and a doctor prescribes it for them because they need it. They get to walk into a pharmacy in Arkansas and buy ivermectin for nothing. It's fucked up, man. Exactly. Andrea on the chat says they have lost their minds. Yeah, and they can lose their lives too, because ivermectin taken, I mean, look, I remember somebody, you know, one of these famous assholes who took a lot of ivermectin. He died of ivermectin poisoning. Let's see, influencer death. Ivermectin influencer. Can you even believe we live in a country that is so stupid that we have ivermectin influencers? I mean, Jesus Christ. This is because Trader Trump said something about ivermectin that, and Ron DeSantis's pal, like they had some kind of, it was some money connection and donor connection. Yeah, let's see. One of the clearest cases of ivermectin influencer death is Danny Lemoy, Lemoi, which rattled his own follower base because he died. He was the ivermectin guru. Vice reported in March of 2023, so this is well after the pandemic, that, let's see, I'll just put the thing up here. Where is that? Come on, man. Look at them. Look at those cute cats. Those are my cats, Ray and Boudica. That's two of them. They're so cute. Let me see. Where is it? Danny Lemoy. He was the ivermectin guru. Vice reported in March 2023 that Rhode Island-based ivermectin influencer. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel, right? Ivermectin influencers we have here in America. We don't have health care. We don't have universal health care. We don't have universal higher education, but we have ivermectin influencers for your dying and stupidity pleasures. For the pleasures of your maggot, I don't know what, your maggot manias. Rhode Island-based ivermectin influencer Danny Lemoy ran a Telegram channel called Dirt Road Discussions and had about 140,000 followers. He died suddenly on March 3rd. Was it March 3rd of this year? What? I don't know. It just says March 3rd. Wow. No, 2023. He'd been taking a daily dose of veterinary ivermectin for years and aggressively pushed high-dose ivermectin protocols to his audience, including guidance for use in children. Wow. You filthy, filthy. I guess it was good that he stepped off the mortal coil, because how much harm was he doing to people, to children? Here, honey, take your ivermectin dose. Oh, Ma. That poor kid. After his death, channel admins said he died from heart problems. They were afraid to tell the truth. Well, the heart problems come from the ivermectin. And some followers reported that severe symptoms that they believe were related to ivermectin. That's how you die. It's not going to say ivermectin. It's going to say you have heart failure because you're taking ivermectin and it affects your heart. Vice noted that heart issues are a known side effect of misuse and overuse of ivermectin, which is a veterinary drug, making his death and his followers' health complaints a glaring red flag about the influencer-driven self-medication culture. Even after Lemoy died, his Telegram community kept promoting not just ivermectin, but other dangerous treatments like eating apricot kernels for cancer, despite regulators warning that such kernels can release cyanide into your system and be fatal. Discussion threads about Lemoy's death show some followers openly worrying that they might be next because they copied his high-dose ivermectin and other protocols. But the channel continued to double down on his brand of medical misinformation. That's insane. And, well, all of those people need to go see a cardiologist immediately, because heart disease is also known as the silent killer. So you could be suffering from it and then you'll drop dead. Probably like Lemoy did, because he was suffering from heart failure and didn't know it till it was too late. You feel fine and then you just drop dead from a heart attack. But can you believe Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signs a law allowing over-the-counter sale of ivermectin, this bullshit drug that harms people, and there are people in Arkansas taking it every single day, thinking that they're doing some preventative measures for their health. But that goes to show you who Sarah Huckabee Sanders is and who the Republicans are. They don't care about the people they pretend to represent. She knows. She's not a fucking moron, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She has the medical information to know, but she's influenced by maggot culture, and she'll say, oh, it's medical freedom and whatever. She will not do her any kind of leadership. She'll never, you know what I mean? It's not about that. If she was a real leader, she'd say, why can't I talk? If she was a real leader and cared about the people she pretends to represent, she'd say, wait a minute here. I'm not letting all you assholes eat ivermectin. You're going to kill yourselves. There's no point to it. The only people that benefit from that bullshit are the ivermectin drug manufacturers. You dum-dums. Don't stop listening to these quacks. So, but it's not just the fringe, as you see. Sorry for hitting the mic. It's not just the fringe, it's coming from the governor's mansion. Arkansas governor, yes, but the article notes similar conservative bills or proposals in Kentucky, Virginia, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. And a 2022 Tennessee law that had already loosened pharmacy access to ivermectin. It's all these poorly run red states. They don't get expanded Medicare, right? In fact, they get kicked off Medicare and Medicaid. They get ivermectin. Let them eat ivermectin. See, I stopped that nasty Obamacare. And I did all you guys a favor. It's freedom. Freedom. Medical free DUMB. And, you know, I didn't want to give you that filthy, nasty Obamacare. I did you one better. I gave you ivermectin. You don't worry about health. Just take your ivermectin, honey. Take your take 2 ivermectins and call me in the morning unless you die in your sleep of a heart attack. Conservative media figures like Fox's Laura Ingraham have promoted ivermectin on the air. In 2021, she attacked the FDA for not allowing ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, claiming that they reduce COVID hospitalization and death, even though that claim is not supported by any kind of data or evidence. You see what I mean? But she doesn't have to say, please become a patron, please, you know, do this, do that, subscribe, like, subscribe. I'm so sick of it. But you gotta keep doing it. You gotta do it. You gotta. Right-wing medical groups such as America's Frontline Doctors and FLCCC built lucrative telehealth businesses selling ivermectin consults. Oh, you scum. You see? They really do hate this country. They hate their fellow Americans. Telehealth business for ivermectin. It's like, don't call your regular telehealth. You got to get hooked right in with the doctor. The doctor will see you now. How much ivermectin do I need, doc? Take, I don't know, 6. Wow, how much of a charlatan do you have to be a telehealth ivermectin doctor? Wow. These that offer online consults to conservative audiences. In 2023, reporting shows that they continue to market ivermectin for COVID and assorted other conditions. Wow. I didn't even think about talking about this tonight. I had so many other things on tap, but you know how it is on Tarabuster. We go all over the place, and we only have like 6 minutes left. So today is May Day, or was. It will soon be over in a few hours. And because it's May Day, and it was supposed to be a big day of protest. Unfortunately, I don't think that we got the word out. Not us. I think there needs to be more planning involved, like the No Kings protest. It was supposed to be a day of general strike, if I'm not mistaken. It was supposed to be today. And this one the corporate media didn't pick up, like the No Kings or anything like that. So, of course, they're never going to pick that up, general strike, because it goes against their basic feeling of, capitalism, basically. That's the difference, the corporate media. We don't have a liberal media in this country. We have a right-wing fascist propaganda mill, and then we have the corporate media, which are not liberal. They're not liberal. This is the liberal media. You're looking at it here. But just to remember May Day, about workers, and they will never, the corporate media machine will never promote workers' solidarity or coming together and unions and things like that. Not at all. That's like when what was, Occupy Wall Street was in effect. They would always disparagingly report it. So that's because they don't, Occupy Wall Street, unlike the teabaggers, they report on the teabaggers and the maggots because they're they're operating within the system. The maggots and teabaggers and Republicans are the shock troops for the establishment. But people like the Occupy Wall Street movement back in the day were pointing out the problems in the system and how broken the system actually is, and how we need unions and universal health care and universal higher education and living wages. Yep. So, maybe soon, I hope. Maybe one day. But that's why shows like this are throttled. I'm not kidding. Because we're on the right side of history, decency, dignity, democracy. If we're going to get this country back, another thing I was thinking about was how we will know we're on the right track if we ever get to a point where we're teaching the labor movement to young people. People don't know this. Or how we got the weekend and 8-hour workday. But just take it for granted. And therefore, we take it for granted. We're not even looking when they take it away. Because just to wrap up the show for tonight, and Right Said Rob on the Twitch chat says, thanks for mentioning it, Tara. I noticed many people didn't mention May Day and the protest today, except for the DSA adjacent peeps. And stopping, yes, another thing that we should teach, stopping child labor, how the labor movement was responsible for that, and how people had to fight, bleed, and die for basic, to be treated like human beings. And it's all going rolled back. Now that I think about it, I think about what we're dealing with now, it really does come down to what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of an economy? This is why they don't want us talking about this, right? What is the meaning of an economy? Right now, we are paying these tech bros who they're all getting together, coming up with ways to make us all obsolete. How is that okay? How is that okay? They get our tax dollars. They're in the halls of power. They're writing legislation to make working people, to make human beings obsolete, redundant. So that's why they don't want us together. They don't want us unionizing or having democracy in the workplace. They want us nice and stressed, living paycheck to paycheck, flying under the radar, hoping we don't get picked off. They don't want us coming together and fighting for each other, fighting side by side. So, okay, well, just to finish off the show tonight, there will be no ending theme music because we only have like a minute left, and I just want to finish this about the about workers, how Trump has systemically weakened workers' lives and prospects since getting power again, shamefully. Many working people voted for this. He has weakened wages, bargaining power, safety protections, job security, and many working people voted for this. Everything is bullshit with Trump. He's just like we were talking with Bob, how the whole Trump myth of being a successful businessman, but there was also a myth of him being, I don't know if you remember this, the blue-collar billionaire. Fuck that. He's a blue-collar billionaire. That's an oxymoron. You know, but he's like he's with you. You know, she's with them, they, them. He's with you. Everything's a scam. A blue-collar billionaire? How many people did he stiff? How many workers did he stiff? But, you know, that was in his personal life. Now that he's got the power to stiff millions of us, that's what they do. And they celebrate firing Americans, kicking them off of health care, kicking them off of any kind of security that they have, decent jobs. That Kevin Hassett was in front of Fox News recently. We played the clip where he was celebrating that he fired 300,000 American workers, and these are good paying jobs that aren't coming back. I don't know why you would celebrate that. And then I even had people on a video that I made about that, and I had Americans actually come into the chat or come into the comment section and say that is a good thing. See how propagandized we are? And these are people that are doing it, you know, maybe on the weekends too, that they don't even realize. They don't even have the decency, the integrity, or the knowledge, or the information, right, to say thanks. They think that they have a weekend where they can go onto the government R&D created internet series of tubes and decry unions and beg billionaires to trickle on them on the weekend, on their day off, because they think they have that day off because billionaires one day felt generous and felt like trickling it on them. Hardly. So what Trump has done, he's really screwed us. He's rolled back Biden-era federal contractor minimum wages. See, Biden gave everybody a raise, federal contractors. He tried to improve the lives of the American people when he was in office, and many of those Americans thanked him by having FJB bumper stickers on their cars. Right? Or saying, you know, let's go Brandon. And then they voted for their own demise. Unbelievable. This is why the Democrats are shit at messaging. It's so frustrating. So one of the first things that Trump did, that this traitorous bastard did, was roll back the raises that Biden had given federal contractors. And then he made others ineligible for overtime. So, tell me again, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Go fuck yourself. Well, you could say no tax on overtime And isn't that wonderful? While you're making sure that no one qualifies for overtime. See how clever they are? Devious bastards. He cut the minimum wage specifically for some federal contractors relative to what they would have earned under prior rules. He slashed pay by an estimated, get this, 25 to 60%. As much as he could. He finalized and proposed rules that reduced farm workers' pay, including H-2A and U.S. citizen farm workers, by changing how their, quote, adverse effect wage rate is calculated. This is what they do whenever they get power. They try to make your life as shitty as possible, as hard as possible. They want you to struggle. They want you desperate. As Alan Greenspan said years ago, that his job as Fed chair was to, or it was something under Reagan. Was he Fed chair, Greenspan? But it was to maintain a certain level of worker insecurity, because they don't want you uppity and thinking that you have a choice in life. They want you nice and desperate and stressed, so you say, yes, my lord. Yes, my lord. Okay, you want me to work on the weekends and not pay me? Okay, yes, my lord. You want me to work into the night and not pay me? Okay, yes, I'm not going to make waves. I'm just grateful for the trickle. So he sought to deny roughly 2 million in-home healthcare workers guaranteed minimum wage and overtime by rolling back and refusing to enforce Obama/Biden era rules that signaling employers that they could ignore the paying people overtime or guaranteed wages. So, no tax on overtime. Dummies. You dumb bastards. Not you. I'm talking to maggots. He changed overtime rules so millions of fewer workers qualify, like I said, costing over 8 million workers more than $1 billion a year in lost overtime. But no taxes on it. No taxes on overtime that you don't qualify for. Oh, I hate them. Legally and peacefully. And then, of course, the tax changes like exempting certain tipped and overtime income sound pro-worker, but in practice help employers game the system and weaken wage protections. That's the whole no tax on tips bullshit. Because they could just say, oh, it's a tip. Here's $1 million to you, my rich pal. And then they note it as a tip. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, one of their rulings said not just no tax on tips. They said that it's not a bribe. It's a tip. That Supreme Court justices, they're not taking bribes. It's a tip. It's legal. Or not just Supreme Court justices, Republican and Democratic, I guess, politicians. It's a tip, not a bribe. If you call it a tip, it's not a bribe. And then, of course, union busting. They stripped. This is what Trader Trump did. He stripped and severely weakened, depending on whether he could strip it or severely weaken it, collective bargaining rights for more than 1 million federal workers. He made it much easier to fire union workers and much harder for unions to negotiate and organize. Oh, they love America, though. He terminated the collective bargaining agreement for more than 45,000 TSA workers. Can you believe that? What a scumbag. He terminated it. No collective bargaining for you. Well, what's the point of a union then? There's none. He abolished labor management councils and federal agencies, removing forums where workers and management could address workplace issues collaboratively. Well, why do you want to give them the feeling? Why do you want to give those working slubs the feeling that they could sit at the table with management and be a part of the discussions? That might make them uppity. Too uppity to, you want them in their place. You want them to be like, yes, my lord. Oh, you decided what you're going to do with me and to me? Okay, yes, my lord. He fired the pro-worker National Labor Relations Board member for supposedly disfavoring employers. Meaning, the person was advocating for the workers, which is what they were supposed to do. And by doing so, he sent the clear message that he expects the labor board to side with the bosses, not the workers. The National Labor Relations Board is not there for you, working asshole. It's for him and his ilk. And he rolled back an order requiring successor federal contractors to recognize existing unions and offer jobs to incumbent workers first. Now that's done. So when they come in and they just want to replace people with cheaper labor and no job security. And as far as safety, then he screwed safety too. I mean, what skin off their balls is it to make sure you can safely work? But they don't care. You lose a finger, an arm, or, oh wow, they'll shoot you in the back of the barn like, old Yeller. Somebody else is there to take your place. So he gutted the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, firing nearly 2/3 of the staff. That was about 870 people, effectively shutting down divisions all across the country focused on miners, firefighters, and healthcare workers. Well, firefighters for Trump. You stupid bastards. You self-loathing suckers. He reduced OSHA inspector staffing to the lowest level in his history and weakened penalties for companies that fail to report safety violations. If nobody reports it, does the safety violation exist? So that in itself makes workplaces more dangerous when there's no reporting and enforcement doesn't exist. He delayed or stalled enforcement of rules to protect coal miners from silica exposure and increasing black lung and other diseases. Well, that's what really drives me up a wall too with the miners, the coal miners. Trump digs coal. Ugh. We're coming back with clean coal that doesn't exist. Well, it was Obama and Obamacare that had specifically put in the protections and medical care for these coal miners, these ingrateful coal miners that had black lung disease. And it didn't matter that they called Obama everything but his name, right? Including the N-word. He didn't leave them behind. And then, they voted Republican, and here comes their troubles. Because Trader Trump undid all the black lung protections that existed in Obamacare. Wait a minute, I thought only the black people were going to lose their health care, not my black lung. I'm so tired of the stupidity. And it comes from Democrats not being able to message properly. They should be constantly pounding it home into the empty heads of these morons. Who'd you get your black lung protections from? Me, Obama, or Biden, right? But no, they don't do things like that. And well, we better start. Because we still have to overcome the right-wing propaganda, the fascist Republican propaganda. So, and of course, he made life less affordable for workers. This is Trump. His entire agenda holds down wages while making everything more expensive. The only people who are enjoying this period of time are the rich. Everyone else is worse off. There's chaos, the tariff, the trade, the Iran illegal war. Oh, and then, yeah, he attacked programs and defunded programs that provide child care. Remember, child care, you gotta have it. Well, he did away with it. We knew that was coming. Child care. You gotta have it. The question, what are you going to do about child care if you get elected? Oh, good question. Child care. Gotta get it. My daughter she really liked it. She would, like nobody's ever seen. And you know what? That we're going to have to tax foreign nations. And they didn't pay those taxes, but they'll get used to it. And then, make America great again. Yeah, what are you applauding? Child care. Gotta have it. Unreal. But, of course, you will not be surprised to know that he did away with child care subsidies. Oh, my God. You gotta have it. It's coming in 2 weeks. And let's see, federal contractors are worse off. Oh, God. I mean, miners, farm workers, in-home healthcare workers, just workers. We're all paying the price for our fellow Americans, the dum-dums, the 72 million assholes who put the baboon back in power. All right, guys, that's it. I feel myself fading out, and I'm stuffed up. I'm sure you can hear it. My nose is stuffy. You hear that? Not good. So it sounds like I need to go to bed and sleep. In my dreams, there are no Republicans. Oops, shit, I dropped my phone. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out. Thanks to Bob Cesca. That was amazing. And thank you, Andrea, for the House Sparks raid. Thank you, Sparklers. And thank you, Andrea, for keeping us safe in the Twitch chat. Thank you, Jim, for keeping us safe in the YouTube chat and everywhere else. Thank you. Who else is in there keeping us safe? Are you alone there as a moderator? Susie. Thank you, Susie, for being a moderator. And Jim. All right, guys. And let me see. Oh, thank you, Bonnie, for becoming a member at the Booty Boo level. Nice. Booty Boo. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for becoming a member. I'm sorry if I missed that when it came in. I wasn't able to look because of our buffering problems. And thank you, JD Christie, for your super chat. Fu Manchu bonus. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, guys. We will win. Thank you, Vasantha, on the chat. We will win, guys. We will win. We will. We will. Will we? We will. Yeah. Okay. We will, but we have a lot of work to do, and we can't get complacent. Oh, you know what? Another thing, actually. Have you seen? I'm sure you have. Those Iranian movies. Those, what do you call it? The Legos that are amazing. They're fucking amazing. And I'm trying to find the ones I like. Maybe we could play one before we go. There's so many of them. They're so good. And when you think about how stupid the maggots are, you know, the Trump bands, not just the regular old Trump bands, I'm talking about the ones who are in government now. They're horrible. You know, their meme game is so weak. Like, they're posting pictures of SpongeBob, you know, like 15-year-old memes. And the Iranians are coming out with these amazing songs. I need sleep, A. Bannock says. Okay, we'll play it another time. But I don't know. No, I'm going to play this one because I brought it up. Can't just leave people hanging. This is one of my favorites. I was watching them all day today. Not all day, but for a large part of the day. There's a good one about we don't hate you. It's about, you know, it's really about everything we're talking about here. Which goes to show you that the young people of Iran that are making these videos are more clued in than the maggots are. You know, I'm gonna play this. Hold on. This is one of my favorites. Gotta get it. Gotta get it. And the songs are good too. Even though, you know, there are rappers in Iranian prisons right now. All right, this is a good one.
2026, still here, still breathing. 7,000 years of soul versus your 4-year glitch.
4-year glitch, baby.
Yo, Trump, look at the sky, then check the scoreboard. You talk about greatness from a golden tower while you rain down fire, abusing your power. Started in 53, yeah, you flipped the script, Mosaic on just to keep the oil unzipped. You think you forgot the 655 flight, 290 souls gone in the middle of the light. No apology, just a medal on the chest. Now you're back in the game, putting us to the test. You ripped the JCPOA, tore the ink off the page, and you wonder why the lion is trapped in the cage. Maximum pressurized, maximum pain, but you can't wash the blood with your corporate brain. This is the land of the sun, the home of the brave. We don't fit in the holes that your sanctions have paid. 7,000 years, we've seen empires fall. You're just a blinking time, a ghost on the wall. Baghdad in the smoke, a drone in the dark, thought our spirit was broke. You targeted a ghost, but you made him a flame. Now every street in Tehran is screaming the name. You call us hero while you fund the drone that levels the city and chills to the bone. 2026 and your boots on our soil. Is it for freedom or just for the oil? You block the medicine, you block the breath, trading our lives for a dance with death. But look at your home, it's tearing apart, while the Persian rhythm still beats in my heart. have the watching, but we have the time. You have the weapons, but we have the rhyme. From Cyrus the Great to the youth in the street, we don't know surrender. We don't know defeat. Check your debt, check your gates, check your own divided king with no crown, with nowhere to hide. He used Israel as a shield, a blade in the dark, but you can't extinguish the Persian spark. Your sanctions are chains that we turned into rings. We are the descendants of poets and kings. Go back to your desert, go back to your sea. The plateau of Iran will always be free. This the deal, this the peace, this the truth if you must. But empires like yours, they always turn to dust.
Nice. Now that's a banger. All right, where?
Why?
Uh-oh. Melania?
Why did you do this to us? Why turn our lives into your leverage in the dark?
Where is it? I lost it now. Hold on, I can't find it. Just shut it off. Fuck.
Beneath the towers lie the shards of broken glass.
All right, there it is. Oh, I didn't see that one. That's a good song, though. Not that one. The other one I like. Then there was another one. That was good. Where's that one? Let me see. We are the descendants of poets and kings. Boom, boom, boom. Your 4-year glitch. I like that. Yeah. Well, it's over Trader Trump's head. Where's the one with the... Hold on. I'll find that one. Lego. Which one? This is the good one, too. I'll play this one. And then we'll call it a night. These are good songs. They should put out an album.
From the streets of Tehran to the avenues of DC, this isn't about hate, it's about the truth. I love your soul, America, but I can't stand your throne. Listen.
How did I come up with this?
I wake up in Tehran, but I'm wearing your brands. Listening to Wu-Tang while I'm washing my hands of the propaganda fed by the man in the suit. I love the fruit of your culture, just not the root of your foreign intervention. I grew up on your films, dreaming of NYC, the lights in the realms of freedom you preach. I love the jazz and the blues, but I hate how your leaders put my brothers on the news as a target, a number, a threat, and a folder. While we're just two kids getting older and colder. I love the land of the free, but not the man in the halls. I love the spirit of the street, not the height of your walls. Between your flag and my home, there's a bridge made of gold, but your leaders keep burning every story we've told. Yeah, I love the stars, but I hate the stripes they draw on my skin. You talk about liberty, but you lock the gate with sanctions that don't hit the elite. Only the plate of the mother and nice behind trying to buy bread. Your leaders aim for the crown, but hit the worker instead. I love the American dream, the work in your rise, but your sentence maximum pressure is just slow motion demise. Medicine scarce and the currency's floor bound. How can I cheer for the eagle when it's pinning me down? I love your people's heart, their drive and their grit, but your White House pen, I got no love for it. I love the land of the free, but not the man in the hall. I love the spirit of the street, not the height of your wall. Between your flag and my home, there's a bridge made of gold, but your leaders keep burning every story we've told. Yeah, Let's open the books, let's go back to the source. Before the hostage crisis in the cycle of force. Remember 53, Mossadegh and the coup. Your leaders broke our democracy before it was new. I love the way the people written on your scroll. But your CIA played a different kind of role. You install a king, then you act all surprised when the fire you started burns right in your eyes. I love the Constitution, the way it was meant, but not the way your leaders bypass consent. Yeah, I got cousins in Cali and friends in Detroit, where the hawks in the Pentagon look for gaps to exploit. They want us to hate, they want a wall made of glass, but we're both just the victims of a ruling class. I love your protest, the way you take to the street to tell your own leaders their lies are obsolete. We're fighting the same fight, just different skies, searching for truth in the forest of lies. I love the American soul, it's vibrant and deep, but your warmongering lobby makes the whole world weak. So this ain't a death to, it's a life to the core of a bridge built on art, not a vessel for war. Keep your drones in the hangar, keep your threats on the shelf. I love your land like I'm learning to love myself, but to the men in the high chairs, the brokers of pain, your legacy's rust and your profit is stain. I keep the hip-hop, the poets, the Pacific shore, but your imperial shadow, we don't want it no more. Yeah. Peace to the Bronx, peace to Shiraz. One world, two cages. Time to break the bars.
It's amazing. I can't believe it. That is a great song, and it's a great way to end the show, especially on May Day, because it wrapped it up. You know, we're not at war with the other working people. Two cages, right? How did they put it?
Time to break the bars. Time to break the...
Well, anyway. And that these young people in Iran, that's who's making these videos apparently, they are more clued in to the truth and the economic truth of this country than the maggots are, it seems. So when I first saw this one, it actually made me cry. When I cry a lot. I'm a crier. So I wish we lived in a world where we could understand this. That we're all under the thumb of these, rich motherfuckers that have us, playing at each other's throats here. So, all right. Clearly I'm tired. I need to go to bed. Thank you for hanging out tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed everything, and you can check out those videos yourself. They're good songs. So those are real good songs, guys. Good job, Iranian kids. And tell me about, you talk about propaganda, talk about winning hearts and minds. When you think about how stupid the maladministration of the Trump administration are, and you compare it to these videos where, I literally wept when I watched this video for the first time, because it really it touched my heart, and they're not doing that. It's the Americans seem to have lost the ability to do that, because it's all performance. It's all we're gonna beat you. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Of course it is. Because it's a scam. It's a sham. They're not the good guys. We're not the good guys, because they're in charge. And I'm sick of it. Thank you, guys. All right, my friends. Thank you, Mark, for your kind words. Always enjoy your show. Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I gotta go to bed now. Maybe I should make that the theme of my show. I'll make this the theme of my show.
But I hate the stripes they draw on my skin. You talk about liberty, but
all right,
you
guys.
the gate with sanctions that don't hit the elite.
Thank you
Only
for
the blade of
hanging
the
out.
mother and knife.
I will see. I was supposed to play myself off there.
But your leaders keep burning every story we've told. Yeah, I love this stuff.
Good night, guys.
But I hate the stripes they draw on my skin. You talk about liberty, but you lock
I
the
will
gate
see
with sanctions
you
that don't hit the
on
elite. Only the blade of the
Substack.
mother and knife behind trying to
I'll
buy
see
bread.
you
Your leaders
on
aim for the crown, but hit the worker
Tuesday.
instead. I love the American dream, the work in your rise, but your sentence
I think
maximum
we'll have
pressure
Hal
is just
Sparks
slow motion demise.
coming up on a
Medicine
show
scarce and the
soon.
currency's floor bound. How can I cheer for
Is he
the
coming
evil
up
when
on
it's pinning
Tuesday?
me down? I
He
love your
might be.
people's heart. They're driving their grip, but your White House pen, I got no love for it.
All right, I'll see you
I
later.
love the land of the free, but not the man in the hall. I love the spirit of the street, not the height of your wall. Between your flag and my home, there's a bridge made of gold, but your leaders keep burning every story we've told. Yeah, let's open the books, let's go back to the source. Before the hostage crisis in the cycle of force. Remember 53, Mossadegh and the coup. Your leaders broke our democracy before it was new. I love the we the people written on your scroll. But your CIA played a different kind of role. You install a king, then you act all surprised when the fire you started burns right in your eyes. I love the Constitution, the way it was meant, but not the way your leaders bypass consent. Yeah, I got cousins in Cali and friends in Detroit, where the hawks in the Pentagon look for gaps to exploit. They want us to hate, they want a wall made of glass, but we're both just the victims of a ruling class. I love your protest the way you take to the street to tell your own leaders their lies are obsolete. We're fighting the same fight, just different skies, searching for truth in the forest of lies. I love the American soul, it's vibrant and deep, but your warmongering lobby makes the whole world weak. So this ain't a death to, it's a life to the core of a bridge built on art, not a vessel for war. Keep your drones in the hangar, keep your threats on the shelf. I love your land like I'm learning to love myself, but to the men in the high chairs, the brokers of pain, your legacy's rust and your profit is stain. I keep the hip-hop, the poets, the Pacific shore, but your imperial shadow, we don't want it no more. Yeah. Peace to the Bronx, peace to Shiraz. One world, two cages, time to break the bars.